Stonites. I hope you all are doing well at home. Today we are for security subject and it's a combined video for grade 9 and 10 because the topic is same only. But before we go further, I want to give you a brief description about what the subject security is and how we are supposed to study. This subject security contains overall concept and knowledge of various aspects. For example, for grade 9, like what is communication, how we are supposed to talk with one another, what are various types of communication, informal, formal, how to talk. And then similarly at the same time, disaster. If disaster comes, what are we supposed to do? And again furthermore, there is about how the organization works out, setup of the organization. And similarly for grade 10 and all, drill. Like what is drill, what are various self-defense and all, what is disaster management, and furthermore first aid and all also you'll be learning here. So though the subject name is security, but here you are learning a lot and a vast knowledge about general knowledge which will help you to cope up with various dangerous situations and how to overcome from it. So security basically comes for 100 marks, but for internal we give 50 marks. 50 marks internal, 50 marks external, meaning in the exam, board exam for both of you 9 and 10, question will be given, you'll appear it just for 50 marks, and remaining 50 marks from the internal side we'll be having various assignments and all, viva, project, this and that. We'll be taking your 50 marks and adding up and giving as a 100, and this subject is very easy out of all. And also this is very important subject because it will help you to overcome the other subject where you might fail. CBSE has made 5 subjects as an exam giving subject. For example, English and Hindi as in language, math, science, SS. English and Hindi you have to pass anyhow. If you fail, you have failed. But out of these 3 subjects, math, science and SS, if you fail in any of the one, security will be helping you to overcome that. So you will not be failed. But obviously, later after grade 10, you will not be able to take certain stream. For example, you want to take science. And in grade 10, you have failed for mathematics. But still, because of the security, you have passed. But you will not be able to take science. You will not be able to take commerce, for example, because mathematics is there. So security is in a way very helpful for you in order to overcome out of 3 subjects. In case if you fail, it will be like a backbone. So that's why it is very important for you to study well, prepare well, and try to give the best in this subject because it's a very scoring subject. And most of the time, last year also, grade 10 student whoever appeared, they have got very good marks in here. All of the maximum of them, they have got 90 plus, 80 plus, 70 plus in the least. So that's why I would like to encourage you to give your time and effort for this subject. And this subject is somehow like SS kind of thing, like writing pattern. Question will come in terms of MCQ, multiple choice question. Question will be given, you have to take the correct answer. And then 2 mark question will come, and then 3 mark, and then 5 mark. There is no extra 1 mark question. For 2 mark, whenever it comes in exam, be it cycle test or board exam or normal exam, remember, for 2 marks, just do not write one word. Little bit explain, like at least 2 sentences or 3 sentences will be expected from your answer. For 3 marks question, write a bit longer, might be like 4, 6, 7, 8 lines, like that you have to write. And for 5 marks question, you have to explain about the question, introduction on the top, and then explain, hold the answer in the middle and try to conclude it. So introduction, explanation, conclusion. That will only give you 5 marks because though the subject is very easy, if you don't know how to write your answer, you may not get the proper marks. Recently in your cycle test, what I have noticed is most of you are answering direct answer and some of you are taking the help of Google and all. We'll come to know if you have copied or if you are copying from some other sources, because what the materials we are sending and what we are teaching is quite different from that. So do not do that from your own perspective. After understanding, write it. We will give you marks. There is no hard and fast rule for security like you have to answer something like mathematics or like science. It's not like that. You have to give your own concept, understand it properly and express it in your words. Okay, so this is how you prepare the subject. This is why it's important. And while preparing, since this subject, each unit are very long, If you check, unit 1 is very long, unit 2 is very long. To read every line by line is not possible. So how you will be studying is every topic, its meaning after understanding, you'll remember the points. And you can express it in your own words. For example, when we talk about disaster management, now there are various topics in here. I have taken one whole topic example. Hazard. Before disaster management, before the word disaster comes hazard. Now what is hazard? Hazard is any event that threatens somebody's life. In a mass also, or it may be lesser amount also, but it threatens. For example, earthquake. It threatens. If earthquake comes up, maybe people may die. Threatens. So those kinds of event we call hazard. But when we call disaster, disaster is an event which has caused huge amount of loss of life. People have died because of that event. So hazard just threatens, but disaster, it has caused huge loss for people's or human or any organism's life. Now there is a difference. Hazard, if it is very severe, will lead to disaster. So hazard basically may lead to disaster, but hazard actually is not equal to or is not same as disaster. Okay. So when we call hazard, there are various types of hazard. For example, geological hazard. Hazard related with geological surface of the earth, like earthquake, volcanic eruption, related with the surface of the earth. And water or climate hazard, related with the climate and water sources. For example, flood. Recently in India, you have learned about how the flood in Bihar has caused many people's, it has happened, like it has threatened many people's life, and even here in Assam also it has happened. So that is hazard. And in case if it has caused huge amount of human life loss, then it would be directly converting to disaster. So this is the example of how hazard converts to disaster. Next, environmental. Now various pollution is occurring, because of that humans or be it other organisms are dying. That is also one kind of environmental hazard, pollution. Chemical hazard. You know the example of in Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, once because of hydrogen bombing, huge amount of people died. And after that, what happened? Until now also, by the source we know that in those areas plant also cannot bloom. So it is a huge amount of destruction in planet, in destruction in land, and destruction to human life and property. That is also hazard which has converted to a disaster. Biological disaster. Right now you can call it this pandemic situation where we are facing coronavirus. So virus is also an example of biological disaster. Virus has occurred due to biological hazard, mean fear. So this virus, coronavirus, which we are going through, this pandemic, is actually the result of hazard being converted to disaster. So these are few examples of hazard and disaster. So when it comes in exam, your question will be give to example of biological hazard, give to example of geological hazard and all, or they might ask how does the hazard converts to disaster. So here you have to explain in your own word, but points you have to remember. That's it. You needn't have to remember every word. Remember, okay? Next, we have disaster management. What is disaster management? Now, disaster has occurred in a certain place. Disaster prone areas are the areas where continuously that disaster keeps on happening. For example, in Japan, earthquake is very common. By the geological surface of Japan, it so happens that platonic plates, it keeps on moving. Because of that, earthquake is very common in there. So we can call it that area as a disaster prone areas. Now in disaster prone areas, what would you do so that you can overcome that hazard or overcome that disaster, or that people may not die, or how you cope up with that situation? We call it disaster management. Now remember, in disaster management there are 4 main steps. First, preparedness. You have to remember this 4 main steps. Explanation, it's up to you. For example, right now I'll give you one example and explain. Like that you can give any other example and explain it on the topic of this 4 main phases. We call it phases of disaster management. First one is preparedness. For example, recently in Nepal, few years back in Nepal, earthquake came up and many people died. Many huge loss was there in life and property. Now after that, what did they do? The government of Nepal started following the disaster management. So what they did was, first they prepared. General awareness was sent to all the people regarding earthquake and various, like in case earthquake comes up, then where they are supposed to hide, to go to the open places, and to have the food supplies necessary, emergency kits and all necessary to keep at home, or if they are moving outside, then to go to the areas where there are no tall buildings and trees are there, to move in those areas, or in case disaster comes up, then prepare a disaster plan. For example, what Nepal did was, in case earthquake comes up, they were calculating, they were checking the research and data again and again, and when the scientists were assuming that disaster or the earthquake might come this month or the other month, then the government tried to aware the people to stay outside in the ground by preparing a tent and all, and stay there, not to stay at home. That is a plan. And in case if disaster has come up, who will be there to volunteering to enter inside that particular premises and bring out the people from there and save them. That is also a disaster plan. So to prepare these all ideas, to prepare yourself in case disaster comes up, comes in the first phase of disaster management. We call it preparedness. Similarly, response. Now, how much you have prepared yourself, disaster does not come knocking at your door that it will say, "Hi, I'm at your door, open the door." No, it will not come like that. It will come all of a sudden, though you are prepared. At that time, what you will be doing, what are the things you will be behaving, that we call response. For example, disaster has struck, though all the preparedness has been done, now what will you do? How will you go outside? How will you help one another? This all comes under response, like evacuation, taking out people from the areas to the outside, helping them, preparing all the medical kits and all, doctors and nurses to prepare them so that they can take them outside. And in case dead bodies or debris is piled up, then how to take it out. This all is also called, response. What action you are doing to that particular disaster when it is striking. For example, in our school, we keep on doing a mock drill. That mock drill is like, in case earthquake has come up, any disaster has come up, then a long bell will be given, not a usual bell, very long bell. So if you hear that bell, then without rushing, without making noise and all, you are supposed to line up and then slowly go down and get collected in the open area. So that is one kind of a response. In case earthquake comes, then that is what you are supposed to do. So it would be a response. Now third is recovery. Now response has been done. People has died. There will be a huge trauma among people. Now how to overcome that? That comes in the recovery. For example, if people have died, if there is a loss of property and places, there will be no place for those people to stay. Then they will be taken in rehabilitation center where they will be staying for a while until government try to fix up things for them or try to bring out certain ways and ideas so that they can lead the normal life. They will be given counseling that since they have gone through the traumatized phase, then they will be given certain counseling how to overcome that. That is also recovery. And also properties has been lost, bridges and all has been collapsed, buildings are completely destroyed. Now recovery comes under how to again build it up, because once the disaster has struck out, now again normal life has to lead. So government will start making the bridges and all again. Recently you have heard, I think it has been 6 or 7 months like that in Japan. I have a very good example for Japan only because they are very, in disaster they give the very right response to every kind of disaster. That's why in Japan few months back, earthquake came up, and because of that all the roads were destroyed. Now what they did, within 24 hours Japan government started working out fully that within 24 hours a transportation mean was completely prepared. So it was a temporary, but still within 2-3 days permanent was done. So that is one example. Recovery has to be done. Whatever has been destroyed, remaking of that, we call it recovery. Next is mitigation. By the word mitigation means trying to reduce the loss. Now after recovery has done, again another phase, again you never know, disaster may come, because disaster, it's not like that today I have come, tomorrow I'll not come. It will not say like that. It will come in any time, any phases, we do not know about it. So mitigation helps to reduce the loss of disaster if it comes in future. And how do we do that? For example, buildings and all, if it is made such that it is disaster proof building. Like in Japan, again I would like to say, because since it is disaster prone areas, they have started to make the houses which is made up of synthetic fiber, synthetic, you know, little bit rubber kind of thing. So even if earthquake comes up, it would be moving, but it will not be completely destroying. In major disaster prone areas, they have started doing that. That is a kind of mitigation. Similarly, another example I like to give, here in India also there is a building codes. Like if you are supposed to make a building, then there is a code like you have to make you know, this many acre and this much of land should be completely under the soil, or for example base should be very strong and all. Those kind of building codes to be followed. Or for example, if apartment right now in the various mainlands, apartment and all are very huge. So in case disaster comes up, then evacuating them is very difficult. So mitigation can be done by preparing a tunnel or something from where they can slide and directly go outside instead of waiting for elevators, because during earthquake and all, whatever disaster, elevators and all are not suggested to use. And if they keep on running, then building is very high, it will take time, they might be dying on the process. So that's why that is another mitigation process where evacuation can be done easily by providing the slide. So these are a few examples of mitigation. And similarly, constructing of you know, trees and all, and houses, lesser amount of houses, huge amount of trees, afforestation and all will help to reduce the disaster. This also comes under mitigation. So these are the few ways in which you can do disaster management. So now this is how we do disaster management. Now the next topic in your chapter is fire. What do you mean by fire? Fire usually caused because of three elements: heat, fuel and oxygen. If these three things are there, then fire occurs. Now in your book or in the PPT we have sent fire tetrahedron. This is very important. In exam question comes up, draw the fire tetrahedron. Like in one place heat is given there, in another triangle fuel, and in another triangle O2 is given oxygen. So they are related. You know, if oxygen is not there, fuel cannot be, fire cannot be happen, or if in case heat is not there, fire cannot cause. So they are interrelated to one another. Now when we call types of fire, directly go to the various types, what causes those kind of fire and how to overcome that. Like class A fire, class B, class C, class D. 4 types of fire are there. Class A types of fire causes due to like wood and plastics and papers and all. These all materials. Due to materials, if fire causes, we call it class A. For it we use basically water, foam, or it may be carbon dioxide extinguisher. You have seen the extinguisher. It is red in color. Even in the PPT we are sending it right now to you. So these are the various extinguisher which helps to overcome the fire for class A. Similarly, class B happens due to inflammable products like kerosene liquids, usually kerosene or alcohol or petrol and all. Because of this, if fire causes, we call it class B fire. And for it also we use DCP or carbon dioxide. Class C usually occur because of various chemicals and all. So in here sometimes it causes due to electrical appliances also. There also chemical or the element is present, that's why. For it to overcome, we do not use foam and water. Remember, class C fire you cannot use water and foam. So CO2 you can use or DCP you can use. Okay. Similarly, class D fire, sometimes due to cooking appliances and all, or sometimes due to various active reactive elements found in nature, like sodium and all. If you leave it for a while, then it will start gathering a fire and may cause accident. Sodium element you have learned in chemistry also. So those certain very active element also may lead to fire. We call it class D type of fire. And here also we use chemical agent like DCP, CO2, depends upon the various types. Okay. Now causes of fire. Why does this all fire causes in general when we talk about open flames? Sometimes people would be smoking and all in the petrol pump areas, and they will be throwing it, and in case it happened to catch the fuel and all, and then fire will start. That is example of open flame. Similarly, it may happen due to electrical appliances. when at home you do not know how to use electrical appliances and you will start using it without a proper knowledge, then it may lead to fire. So that is due to electrical. Similarly, cooking, if you unattend your cooking, then it also may lead to fire. Similarly, spontaneous ignition, in a very moment, because of small ignition in wrong place, it may catch a fire and it also lead to fire accident. Now, in order to overcome that, we do PASS method. PASS. PASS method is a method of using fire extinguisher. You might have seen a fire extinguisher. On the top there is a nozzle and there is a pin to pull. So how to use it? We call it PASS method. P stands for pull the pin. You have to pull the pin in the front. A stands for aim. Aim where the fire has occurred. Suppose fire is source is here, then you'll have to aim like this there. S stands for squeeze. Then nozzle, you have to squeeze it. And then another S stands for swipe. You have to keep on swiping it, not in one alone place. If you keep on keeping in one alone place, it may not be effective. We have to swipe it around. That stands for pass. Similarly, RACE. RACE stands for dealing with fire emergencies. If fire disaster has occurred, how to overcome that. R stands for whenever fire accident occurs, then it would be very, somewhere places alert system, alarm and all will be kept in order to remember that. So R stands for rescue. You'll be obviously hearing that alert and all. So you have to rescue yourself first and then only rescue others. If you die, instead of saving yourself, if you try to save others and in the process if you die, then it is a double loss. So that's why try to rescue, find a passage for yourself to rescue out, call the people around and then try to take the help from the other volunteer. That comes under R, rescue. A, alert. After hearing that alarm system and all, after you have rescued yourself, start alerting the people around, switch on the alarm and all so that other people may be aware and they also can go away. C, confine. Confine, you should not be staying near the, the zone where the fire sources are more. Try to confine yourself from those kind of places. Try to move away from such kind of places. E, evacuation. After you have rescued yourself, try to evacuate more and more people by taking others' help. Now that stands for RACE. This is how we deal with fire. Now there is a word called NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority. Now in government, they prepare an authority. There is a group of people who works for disaster management alone. So we call it National Disaster Management Authority. And in there, those authority have even made the act, National Disaster Management Act. It is like a law kind of thing which explains how they are supposed to prepare disaster plan, overcome disaster and how to help and all. So that act was actually formed in 2005. Okay. So in order to follow this National Disaster Management Act, the authority have made various levels like government central level, and then comes state level, below it comes village level, block level. So government will be giving the authority to state level and state government will be giving authority to certain villages and all, and villages will be giving authority to certain blocks. So certain people will be required or reallocated there. So they will be taking those responsibility and working under that. So this is how NDMA works. Okay. So by this chapter is over. So I am basically highlighting to you how to read, how to write the question papers and all, how to overcome this kind of lengthy chapters in short way. Remember the points, write the main points, explain it in your own words, and for chapter 2 these are the main points. Okay, we'll be sending chapter 2 ebook also along with this video, and also certain assignment in there. Please go through book 1, all the portion, try to self-memorize, understand very well and then prepare. In this previous cycle test from grade 9, Penyu Longchar, I think she has written the answers very well. Her answers, I really liked it, the way it should be written. 1 mark, 1 sentence, 2 mark, a bit extra sentence, 3 marks, a little bit longer, 5 marks, explanation with heading, explanation and conclusion. So please try to follow the same pattern, remaining all of you also. And all the very best. Any questions, any doubt, you can call me, you can WhatsApp me anytime. So until the next video is uploaded, till then stay safe, stay healthy, and never stop learning. Thank you.